So say you decide to attack the captain. He's lost his mind. Oh, wait, no, better. Star Trek-y. It's the Mirrorverse captain.
So he's got the goatee.
He's got the goatee. Right. The evil goatee, right?
Right.
That no one noticed for most of the episode.
Gasp.
To go where Eat Sleep Nerd has never gone before. In this episode, we're actually going to learn how to play Star Trek Adventures, the tabletop role-playing game that is similar to Dungeons & Dragons. In this episode, our game master Josh Winter is going to walk us through, step by step, how we would actually play an entire episode of Star Trek Adventures. So, before we get into it, make sure you go on over to youtube.com/@eatsleepnerd. Click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave a like on this video. Leave some comments if you played this game before. And then make sure you share us with your friends and family over on social media. Now, I'm your dorky DJ, Corey Winter. Joining us here to learn how to play Star Trek Adventures, we have Jason Summer. We have Nick Murphy. We have Cynthia Taylor. We have Christian James. And, as I said before, our game master, Josh Winter. So, Josh, kick us off. How do we play this game?
So, as you said before, this is very much the same kind of idea as Dungeons & Dragons is. Only instead of a dungeon master, there's a game master. And the general premise of it is it's collaborative storytelling. All right, I will come in with a story that's very loosely assembled, or more often than not, very detailed, but just with a million branching paths. And you guys get to decide what happens in any given situation. And hopefully, if I've thought it out well enough, I can direct the story based on what you decide to do. Every decision that you guys make has one of three answers. It's either a yes, it's either a no, or it's a maybe. When it's a maybe, that's where the dice come into play. So in a lot of situations, it's going to be narrative based, right? For example, say you're going to try to cure a disease. For example, first thing you would do is figure out what the disease is. Looking up symptoms in a database is not a hard task. So that's pretty much going to be, okay, can I look up what these symptoms are? Yes, we don't even need to roll for that. Yes, just go ahead and do it. Does the database automatically tell me what it is? No, it doesn't. Okay, can I take the information I have and synthesize a solution to it? Maybe. That's where the dice rolls come in. Your character sheet, which we lovingly crafted in our last episode.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen that already, we actually have done a Star Trek Adventures centric episode here recently on our channel, where each of us, except for Christian because he wasn't there, we all made our characters. We actually walked through an entire tutorial application where we actually went through all the details of creating our characters, right down to our rank, where we are from, our entire backstory, all of our different skills. We named our characters, all that, our species, all that stuff. So all of us did that. So I'm the chief of security. Jason, who are you playing?
I am a Vulcan named Lave, and I'm the first officer.
Okay, Nick, who are you?
I'm Roger Washington. I'm operations manager.
Cynthia.
I'm Lyrics. I'm the chief medical officer, and I'm Betazoid.
Betazoid. Christian.
I am Tumek. I'm a Klingon engineer.
Nice. I like the effect that you gave.
And I'm everyone else.
Yes. As we've learned tonight, so spoilers, we were actually going to play the entire first episode tonight before we realized the story wasn't really set up for us all that well. No offense to Josh. But so we actually need like one more person to kind of do the story we want to do tonight. But
it's okay. It will be rewritten
Yeah,
in order for it to equally to work out. There's a lot of things that you can change really quick, and like, it's fine. But like literally, this story was centered around a character we don't flippin' have. So
I love that you missed that.
Yeah. I was just so psyched about how good it was, like as a story.
Like we got like 3 sentences.
Yeah, seriously. Like just starting, I was like, mother.
So this and this happens, and then the helm. Oh,
ooh. And like it's an adventure where they don't leave the ship. The helmsman is important.
We could have just been like free floating in space. There is no helmsman.
But it's all good. We actually all were very relieved that we weren't doing the first full episode because we would like to have a little tutorial. So this actually worked out well.
Dude, and it's after 10:30. Everyone, for different reasons, has had a very long day. Jesus Christ.
Jason's opening an energy drink at 10:30.
I am 45 years old, and it is 10:30 at night, and we're just starting. I need this.
I like that you went with the ghost. That's great.
Oh, it's great. It is orange cream, and it is fantastic tasting.
It really is. Not bad.
Not
Anyway,
sponsored.
he's going to be buzzing at the end of this episode, but
Yeah.
Vibrating. Okay.
so
On your character sheets, you have attributes and you have disciplines. So as far as the mechanics of how we actually play, anytime you attempt a task, it's going to involve a combination of one attribute and one discipline. Okay? There is basic math involved in this.
I'm out.
Well,
That's it.
That's it.
It was a good run. I'll see y'all later.
So, for example, say Corey, the security officer.
Roland you misspelled my name.
Sorry that I misspelled your made-up name.
Roland Ordeo. Or Ordeo if you want to get fancy.
I was going to say, I always pronounce it Ordeo.
Okay.
Say you were in a fight,
Mhm.
okay, hand-to-hand fight. You would, in order to see whether or not you were able to overcome someone physically, you would roll your fitness, which is a measurement of your strength,
Okay.
and security, because that's the department that most comes into play for that situation.
Makes sense.
All right. Your attributes determine your raw physical abilities. Your disciplines, your departments reflect more of your training, right? So you could be very, very, very strong. You could have a fitness of like 12, but you don't know what the heck you're doing. So even though you're very strong, that doesn't mean you're good in a fight, you know? So I actually like that mechanic a lot. It balances it out. In order to be successful, you probably need to be at least moderately good at both things. The good news is I will tell you which ones to pick. You do not have to figure out which one's going to it. You are allowed to argue with me. As
I'm
long as
back
you have
in.
a good reason for why as long as you have a good reason for why you're picking that thing, right?
Okay, so let me ask you this. So unlike a lot of games, we're not competing against each other. We're actually working together.
It is actually very collaborative, and it's a theme of Star Trek. The company that made it is Modifius. They did an amazing job of trying to embody the spirit of Star Trek. It is all about cooperation and teamwork. So back on the task, say like I said, it's fitness plus security, right? So what would those numbers be together?
12 plus where is security on here? Do you see it?
Right underneath it.
Oh, 5. So
17.
17.
Okay. That's a
guys.
good
Nice.
job. Yes,
Teamwork.
Yes.
Right.
yes.
I'm so proud of you.
See, you're already teamworking. Okay. So Corey's number that he's shooting for in order to get a success is a 17.
Okay.
Unlike Dungeons and Dragons, where you want as big a number as you can, you're looking for that number or less in this game. Okay. So you would take your D20, and in order to get a success, you get 2, by the way, for everything.
Okay.
So your standard roll is at least 2 dice. Okay. You are looking for at least a 17. So I had a I had a good roll. Sorry. I was already doing Dungeons and Dragons in my head. I had a 1 and a 3. And this is actually, as far as examples go, an excellent roll. So those are both successes because they were less than the numbers that you were going for. So it's that number or less is a success.
Oh, I thought you were shooting for 17.
No, 17 or less. That's why I'm saying, like, you having high numbers here makes it really easy to get your
Gotcha.
successes. That means you're a highly capable individual
That makes sense.
because that means most of the dice is going to be considered as successful.
So if I was like a 2 on everything, that'd be
You're going to have some hard rolls.
Okay.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
Okay.
No.
So with Dungeons and Dragons, you have to roll to meet what the what the stats of the enemy are.
Correct.
Okay, to beat that. So, but it seems like with this rolling, you're okay. I don't understand why it has to be less. Instead, why are they going opposite?
Because it gives you, honestly, it makes it,
It gives you more opportunity to.
instead of meeting a threshold,
Right.
you are, I guess it's still a threshold. It's just
Yeah.
going the other way.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily just need one success.
Right.
You may need many successes in order to complete your task. And that gets into difficulty.
Okay.
So say, for example, again, Corey's doing his fight, right? Maybe he's fighting a very large humanoid, okay? Significantly larger than him, all right? Cool. Corey, you need to roll your fitness and your security, but it's a difficulty of 3. That means you need 3 successes in order to be successful. Okay? So you only have 2 dice starting out. In this case, you got a 3, which is a success. And then the other one was a 1. And it really was a 1 for the record. You can look at it on the camera. A 1 is like a 20 in D&D. That is a critical success. That is as good as it could possibly be. And that counts as 2 successes. So in this particular case, with just a good roll, you would meet your threshold of 3.
Okay.
And you would accomplish your task, which in this case is, I don't know, we'll say it's knocking out a guy who doesn't know you're coming. Okay. However, you'd be taking a big gamble hoping that you would have a critical success. Like that's literally a 5% chance you would get a 1. Okay. So you have a couple of options. The biggest and the most Star Trek-y would be you can get an assist. The rules for assists are that character who's assisting you has to be in the scene. Duh. So if Nick is on the ship, he can't help you. Okay? Like he has to physically be there to help you. That's just a narrative rule that makes sense. He does not have to roll the same stats as you. Again, as long as he has a good reason for why his work out. A good example might be like Jason, your Vulcan has nerve pinch. That ability lets you use either the science stat or the medicine stat instead of your fitness stat.
Okay.
So you can say, hey, I'm going to also try to nerve pinch this guy while Corey's getting at him.
Got it.
And you are allowed to roll 1 dice in the aid to in the effort to aid. Okay. So now you've got 3 dice rolling towards your thing. Additional people can help, but there's extra rules. So we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
The other way is in your talents, you may have a talent that allows you to get extra dice for certain situations. That depends entirely on what your talents are. I don't remember what everyone's talents were. But talents generally let you break rules. That's the whole idea, is that your character is so good at something that they can break a rule. The other way to get extra dice is to use momentum. So momentum is shared with you guys. You start out with none, but you can earn it pretty easily. So anytime you have more successes than you need, you earn momentum. So we said that was a difficulty of 3, so you needed 3 successes.
Yeah.
Let's just say it was a difficulty of 1. Okay? Just a pretty standard guy. All right? You only need 1 success. It's a difficulty of 1. Say you made that same roll, though. You got 3 successes. Cool. So you succeeded in your task, and now the entire group has 2 momentum. You share your momentum. Okay? Because again, Star Trek, cooperation. Right? If something's going really good for someone, hopefully we can build on that success and keep going. Right? One of the things you can do with momentum is buy additional dice. So maybe you're alone in this situation, right? You've gone off ahead of everybody, or you're scouting, or everyone had to split up, or maybe you're in a starship and the corridor collapsed and you're trapped on one side with the enemy. You can't get help, but you've got some momentum. All right, hey Josh, I'm going to spend a momentum, and I need an extra dice because otherwise I'm worried I'm not going to make this success. Okay. There is a game master version of momentum. It's called threat. I get to use it in a lot of the same ways. I can use it to give myself better odds.
Okay.
I can use it to create complications. I can use it to make frivolous narrative changes, because it is my story and I'm going to try to keep it interesting, but I shouldn't be able to just change whatever for whatever's sake. So I do have my own currency that I have to use.
Okay.
Another way you can get an additional die is to say, I don't have any money. Say we don't have any momentum. I will let you get some threat if I can have an extra die. So you can buy it from me. But the trade-off is you're giving me ammo to do something to you later.
It sounds so complicated.
It really isn't. It is at first.
Yeah, once
but
you get into
the
it,
longer
yeah.
you think about it, and as soon as we actually start doing it, like try explaining Monopoly to someone who's not playing Monopoly. Sounds horrifying.
Got it.
Well, could we walk through like some just scenarios you make up off the top of your head? Just how you would do it?
Sure.
You mentioned talking more about the collaboration. Is there anything else we needed to know about that?
Oh, you can use the ship as a partner.
Oh, cool.
As long as, again, the ship is in the scene. So either we're on the ship or you're in direct communication with the ship. If it's a situation where there's interference, which is, by the way, just Star Trek's way of doing a complication, of making a reason why you can't just easily solve something, then obviously you can't use the ship. But other than that, yes, you can get your bonus from the ship. And the first person who assists you, there is no cost. They can just help. Again, it's the spirit of the game. Okay.
So is the ship like a silent partner?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Now, the flip side of your critical successes are, they don't call them critical failures, but that's essentially what it is. If you get a 20, that's bad. You'll usually suffer an immediate complication, and it's kind of at my discretion. So say Nick is going to teleport the crew onto a spaceship that's leaking radiation. Okay? Just not a good idea. Yeah. He rolls and he gets a success, but also his other die is a 20. Cool. The crew made it aboard the ship, but you didn't end up in the right compartment. You're on board, but you're not where you thought you were going to be. And you're actually way close to the radiation, and now you're starting to get sick. Because you didn't beam aboard the safe part of the ship that you thought you were going to. So that's how complications work.
Okay.
And it's usually just a wrench. It's usually going to have to be something that we just kind of make up on the fly. But the point is, you had a critical failure, and while we can just say that means it didn't work, it's way more fun to say it worked, but
Yeah.
And now you have a problem that you have to solve.
Can we die?
You can die.
Well, that's a bummer.
Do you start at the beginning and then catch up to everybody else, or
No, so there are mechanics in place for this. Essentially, because most starships usually have hundreds of crewmen aboard, you would essentially just roll another character. And we would try to think of a narrative
You're
reason.
replaceable.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. Like, we would roll another character and try to invent a narrative reason for why suddenly this person is important. Over time, so this kind of ties into the assists and everything. So unlike, as far as I'm aware of, any other tabletop game, there is an actual mechanic for what they call supporting characters. So not everyone is good at everything. And we actually did a pretty good job of having different people who are good at different things. So say most of the team is down on the planet and Christian is still on the ship because he's the chief engineer. Something catastrophic happens. Maybe you guys trip a trap or set off an alarm, or a diplomatic situation goes completely south and the planet starts attacking the ship. So now the ship is under attack. It's falling apart. You're having to do repairs. You can't do it alone. We can make up on the fly someone who has the skills nearby that can help him. Is that a little convenient? Of course it is. But it also makes sense. It's a ship with 500 people, which is, by the way, our crew complement on the New Orleans class ship is 500 people. So statistically, yeah, there is probably someone nearby who screams, "I know how to do that!" And they come running over and they help out. So after playing for a little while, we'll probably have a folder of 2 or 3 people that we've used before. And they can be little recurring characters that pop in and out as needed.
When you did that, it made me immediately. When you did that, it made me immediately think of Chekhov from 2009.
Yeah, it's literally what I had.
I can do that. I can do that. And he's like, yeah. Now he's a main character, but still.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just like, he just like out of the blue, he's like, oh, I can do this thing that everybody needs, like all of a sudden.
And that's actually an excellent example of that kind of collaboration. And again, in the Star Trek world, where, and this is a dirty word these days, but I think it's relevant. It's the best shining example of it. It is a little bit of a meritocracy. They don't really care who you are or where you're from or can you do the thing? I need to know if you can do the thing. you're valuable because you can do the thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a big deal. So it's a very common theme that they don't care what your department is. It's are you able to, do you know anything about that? Can you do that? Because I'm willing to listen.
Yeah.
It's very collaborative, very cooperative. There are 3 different kinds of tasks. So tasks being when we actually have to roll dice. Okay. The easiest one is just a task, just a standard task. Fixing an engine or doing a treatment on somebody. Okay. That's where we pick our attribute, pick our discipline, and you roll to see if it works. It's as straightforward as it gets. The other one is a long-term task in which, say, you are looking for the cure to a disease. That is not something that's going to happen immediately. And in a story where you're doing that, I've probably set it up so that there's an A story and a B story. And so what's going to happen is you would start your task. And in this case, in order to draw it out, normally we would make it, you have to have an absurd amount of successes. Like we're looking for like 15 successes, 20 successes, something ridiculous. And it's blocked out along the way for you to have different events. Like you might have a breakthrough, you might have a setback, you might have a whatever. But the point is, we would check in with you, do your rolls, then we'd go to the B story and do what they're doing. Okay, so time has passed. Let's get back to whatever. So she's looking for the cure. You guys are handling the uprising because the people down there are out of their mind and they're panicking because there's this disease spreading and they don't know what to do and they're out of control and they don't feel like you're helping. And so now they're turning on you because they feel like you're just ignoring them. It's just, okay, and how's that cure coming? And we check back in. The third one is a contested task. And that would be honestly more like the fight that we were talking about before, where, like you pointed out, usually you'd be rolling against someone else's stats. In that case, you have the person doing the action and the person being acted upon. So what would happen is, to use, again, just a fist fight, because it's the easiest example, you would take fitness and security for both people, right? Because they're both doing the same task. They're just in a physical altercation.
Right.
The person being attacked actually rolls first. So say you decide to attack the captain. He's lost his mind. Oh, wait, no, better. Star Trek-y. It's the Mirrorverse captain. Okay. And you've just realized that it's the Mirrorverse captain.
So he's got the goatee.
He's got the goatee. Right. Evil goatee. Right.
Right.
That no one noticed for most of the episode.
Gasp. Wait a minute.
Okay. So his fitness is, he's not very physically strong, this captain. It's an 8 plus a 1. So it's a 9.
I'm struggling you.
Well, you're the
So he would roll first. All right, he got a 15 and a 10. So he literally has 0 successes.
Okay.
So you are shooting for 0 successes.
Okay.
So
I don't even need to do anything.
Not really, no.
Okay.
And that brings up an excellent point. So we talked before about earning momentum.
Right.
There are situations where you don't have to roll. You can choose to roll anyway.
Okay.
Because if you get successes, you earn free momentum.
Mm.
Okay. So you can just be like, hey, do we really have to roll this? And I'll be like, no, you don't have to roll it. It's fine. But you don't get any of the bonuses.
Got it.
However, if you do decide to roll it, what if you roll a 20? You're physically stronger, you're more prepared, but on your way over there, you trip. Okay.
Fell down a hole.
That
Yeah,
sounds like
like
a very Jason thing to do.
Okay. So like it's kind of up to you and it's kind of a calculated risk. But if you have really good stats, you probably don't need to worry, right? So
Yes. I see. So when you say the other character rolls, that means you're
A
the
lot of
other
the time.
character. Yeah.
a lot of the time, yeah,
Okay.
it's going to be me.
Okay.
There will probably not be many situations where you guys would ever have to roll against each other,
Mhm.
but it is possible.
So I don't know. How familiar are you all with Star Trek? Again,
Not at all.
not at all.
Nick watched TNG when he
Moderately.
was a kid.
Okay.
I have some familiarity.
Okay. So I was just thinking, like, I've already thrown out like several references that only if you know Star Trek, like the goatee,
That's
Yeah,
my.
left.
That's
I
my.
just moved on.
I'm probably not
Huh?
giving
I
myself
just
enough
moved on.
credit for what I know. I just have to be reminded of it at this point.
Spock's
Yeah,
Mirrorverse
but-
had a evil goatee.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody like from anyway. So
Doctor Strange.
we'll try to keep the
Kind of, yeah, same principle.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I mean, if I don't get something, I'll ask. It's not.
Oh
a big
yeah.
deal.
Okay.
It's not a big deal.
I got
And
the
most of
cookies.
these things are not going to be. You have to know Star Trek to
Yeah.
know it, right?
And that that was actually going to be my follow up question. Is like how.
The good news is it's not like we're just people playing a friggin' game, right? Like if you don't understand what's something, just ask. Like the only way I'll ever tell you that I'm not going to tell you is if your character would not know that. And even then I'll tell you, you don't know.
Hmm.
You don't know. Sorry. You don't know. But that's usually just a prompt for you to decide. You know, what are you going to do? Okay, he doesn't know. Well, what does your character do in that situation? Okay, is there a way I can look it up? I don't know. Are you still in range of the ship? That's how it would work. The biggest trick is going to be the awkward silence at the beginning when it's like, okay, and go. And it's like, well, what do you want to do? Like you can do anything. And that's the thing to remember. You really can do anything. And that's what ends up making it a collaborative story. Is when I have these outlines for the stories, it's the things that I imagine are most likely to happen, or that the writer of the story imagines is most likely to happen. Like you have a helmsman.
Mhm.
He figured that was likely to happen on a starship, which is funny because, like, in all honesty, most of the time that's not even a super major character. It was friggin' Wesley Crusher was the helmsman for a little while, and he's barely a character. So
Shut up,
So, yeah.
Wesley.
shut up, Wesley. No, so I mean that's who has questions. What are our questions? That's from a very high level. I mean that's it. That's really it.
I feel like my question is, I don't know, because I feel like I know the answer to this. So when we built our characters, we all have like events that happened in our past
Mhm.
that develop the character. How far beyond what is already on the sheet do we go with creation of our characters that we could, like, I have event number 1, dealing with a plague. So when you gave the example of I'm up on the ship looking for a cure for this thing, for this outbreak, I can pull in, well, hey, my life event number 1 was dealing with a plague. How can I use that to, so I can do that. But what if, like, dealing with a plague and then death of a friend was number 2? What if there's something, can I just create an event that's happened in my past that would make it easier or harder for me in that moment? Or am I stuck to this for a time?
The general answer to that is it is role play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you are encouraged to role play. Having read both the Dungeons and Dragons manual and this manual, I feel like there's actually a way bigger emphasis on role playing in this game than there is in Dungeons and Dragons. Like they really want you to just try to tell a good story. So my answer, until it's a problem, is going to be no. If you can give me a good reason why that's what it was, I'm for it. Let's go. From a gameplay standpoint, though, from what I recall on your sheet, the information at the very top of your sheet, that first section, is more about the role playing part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's more about just to remind you of who your character is. As far as the gameplay and how we would change that, though, like underneath your focuses, though, I believed you had virology,
Mm-hmm.
and we picked that because of your life event up
Yeah.
top. So, from a gameplay standpoint, saying it was your life event doesn't carry as much weight as I have a focus in virology.
Gotcha.
And when you use a focus, any success that is a number that is equal to or smaller than the discipline that you're rolling counts as a critical success. So in your case, if you're trying to cure that viral illness, it would be probably either reason or insight
Mm-hmm.
plus medicine. And then you tell me, hey, I have a focus in virology. My character knows a crap ton about viruses and how they spread. I'll be like, you know what? You're right. So whatever your medicine is, which I'm pretty sure for you it's a 5.
Mhm.
Cool. anything that you roll that's a 5 or less counts as 2 successes
Nice.
because it's a focus. Your character knows extra about that.
Cool.
Yeah, because the pinpoints that you have that lead us into this story are more Star Trek-y in a sense. We're just creating the Star Trek story within your pinpoints.
Correct. Yeah. And it's like we don't have to when something goes wrong with the engine, I'm not gonna be like, so Christian, what's wrong with the engine? No, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what's wrong with the engine. The point is the engine isn't working. This is how hard it is to fix it.
Yeah.
Fix the engine. Later on, because again, the idea is to eventually turn it into a video. Later on, we'll make up some Star Trek-y sounds, names for what's wrong. The coupler is dephased because of interference
From
from subspace. Like
the Gloob Glorp planet. One more question.
Okay.
Knowing a little bit about D&D.
Yeah.
Is there an end?
yes. So
When you die.
yeah, no.
It's kind of my job to prevent.
Yeah. So all of the she just
We're
keeps it going
screwed.
forever. So all of these stories are structured in 3-act stories. All the ones that I've seen as far as demos go, the couple of episodes that I've written up, they're structured as 3-act stories so that A, we know exactly what has to happen to get to the end, and B, because it's emotionally satisfying. People like 3-act stories.
Sure.
Okay? Like it's what makes Law and Order comfortable. Okay? Act 1 in every single Law and Order episode is
Jin,
the
jin.
setup for the crime.
His gin.
You know what? Touche. But every single episode is the setup of the crime. Someone discovers the maid. It's always the maid. The maid discovers the dead body. The police come out. They start investigating it. They find the suspect. That's the end of Act 1. Act 2 starts with interrogating the suspect, and that's where they introduce the lawyers. Act 3 is when they go to court and
Yeah.
resolve the case. We have watched 800 episodes of Law and Order because that is a very simple 3-act structure that even though it's not the exact same story every time, we know how it's going to go every single time. We don't know what's going to happen, but we know how it's going to happen every single time.
Sometimes they get away with it.
Sometimes they get away with it. That's fine. But the point is 3 acts are perfect.
Yeah.
Because there's the setup, the stuff, and then how it wraps up. And in the spirit of Star Trek, especially the older ones like Deep Space Nine and TNG and Voyager, as soon as it's wrapped up, there's no denouement. It's just credits.
Mm.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
just like, all right, are they going to be fine? Probably. And they sail off. It's one of my favorite things. Like you could tell they had like 40 minutes to squeeze in a 50-minute story. And so it's just like, no, as soon as we get to, okay, and we're done. We made it.
Hands are clean.
Obviously it is a turn-based game. Is it turns in order or turns in who needs to roll at that point?
Yes.
See, it was a good question.
No, it is a good question. So there's 2 different kinds of scenes. There are the narrative scenes, and then there are what the rulebook calls engagements. Okay. Narrative play is very freeform. Okay. Because at any given moment, really there's only one person who's doing something. And it's supposed to be the person who's the most appropriate person for that job. And in that case, we just kind of do it as we need to do it. That can change when it becomes an engagement. And when it's an engagement, it becomes very turn-oriented. So an engagement would be combat or ship combat or a rare but somewhat normal circumstance would be like a debate, because there is debate in Star Trek. There's a lot of debate in Star Trek. And in that case, you start taking turns. So if you are doing, say, combat, so everyone in here, the ship is under attack, the Romulans are beaming aboard, and they've actually stormed the bridge. So everyone's on the bridge. So everyone's all in the same spot, because it gets more complicated when people are in different spots. But for the ease of learning, Everyone is on the bridge. Narratively, we would decide who makes sense to go first. So since the Romulans are attacking the ship, I would argue they're probably going to attack first. At which point, I don't get to cheat. I have to have stat sheets for each of the characters that I'm playing. You are allowed to see them if you ever want to, but I also have to tell you exactly what's happening. So I can't just be like, and the Romulans are on the bridge. What do you do? No, I have to be like, 4 Romulan soldiers have beamed onto the bridge with one of their commanders. So now you know there are 5 Romulans on the bridge.
Could we do like this as like a test round? Like,
I have none of those stats,
do you,
but
do you
sure.
need them? I mean, can you just
we'll make stuff up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make stuff up.
Yeah. And since we're all on the bridge, we'll all have something to do.
Okay, so let's say we're actually in like a hallway and we got blocked off, so it's actually Jason and me facing off against a Romulan
Daredevil.
in that hallway. We're just stuck.
Just one Romulan?
Sure.
Okay.
But what stops the story from being like, and then Christian falls through the ceiling and he's there to help us too? Like,
Okay, so nothing stops it, but it all comes back to good storytelling, right?
sure.
Yeah, that would
so
I feel like someone falling through the ceiling is pretty good storytelling.
I mean, it can be, but I think at that point it becomes a lot of, did we set that up?
Like, is he crawling
To the fence?
Jeffrey's tube
Correct.
to get
Yeah.
to-
Like, is Christian
like, is he going through the Jeffrey's tube to get? Sorry,
You got too
Corey.
relaxed.
first podcast?
You know, he's right. I'm pretty relaxed right now. Like, so yeah.
But no, I mean, that's yeah, like I guess the most black and white answer to your question is nothing. Nothing is stopping Christian from falling through the ceiling. But while we can do that, it feels like a cop out if you didn't set that up. If there's not a logical reason for that to happen, then it was just kind of like, okay,
And that's
Why?
the most Star Trek thing
what's that?
because there's no logical reason.
Like it's yeah, like we can do that, but if something like that ever happens in one of our stories, it's going to be because we got written into a hole and I didn't know how to get out of it.
And suddenly Christian falls through.
I fall through the ceiling.
Yeah.
Love that.
So like it's yeah, like it's
If that ever happens, we have to do specifically that and just go from there. Like, oh no, finally we're written into a hole and Christian falls through the ceiling.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be like the go-to. For when anytime we get stuck, Christian falls through the ceiling.
and he sits up and he says, "This isn't the med bay." So yeah, no, like that's yeah, like nothing stops that. It's just not good storytelling.
Okay.
What?
So you're gonna walk us through a
Yeah.
scene?
So can we do the battle on
Yeah.
the bridge?
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the sake of keeping the demo easy, we're gonna say that you were caught so off guard that no one has phasers. It will be hand-to-hand combat. Okay. Okay. So you're in a hallway. It has a bulkhead above you has collapsed. The stability force field kicks on, so you don't have to worry about vacuum. You're safe from the environment. However, looking ahead, you see that there is one Romulan agent ahead of you. You seem to have caught him off guard, and he's actually dropped his weapon during the cave-in. So it's skittered across the hall. And I guess he's decided that you're more important than trying to get to his weapon.
Mhm.
You don't have your weapons because you were caught off guard. Bad officers. So, what do you do? See, that's that first awkward silence, right?
Yeah.
Because it feels weird, right? Like but no, like you can do anything. What do? You could talk to him. You
All right.
could attack him. You could.
Is
So who's there?
is the
It
Romulan
is the
looking
two
at our?
of- it is the two of you and one Romulan soldier.
All right. Is he looking at us? Is he aware that?
He is aware of your presence. Yes.
Okay, so you're more of a diplomat. I'm more of a
Whatever the opposite of a diplomat is.
yeah.
Yeah. You're hot
Beat
headed.
him up.
You're a
I'm
Texan.
hot-headed.
Okay.
Yeah, looking at my character sheet. If you
Right.
push me too far, you'll likely
Right.
see my ugly side. So I have an ugly side.
Okay.
And you're blowing up his ship.
Yeah.
So logically speaking, the Romulans have already attacked. So violence is their intent. Diplomacy is not an option at this point.
And I guess in this scenario, he would outrank me.
Correct.
So he'd be calling the shots.
That's the other thing. Like you do have to obey the chain of command.
Mhm. So I'm
But
following
I guess you
your
don't
lead.
have to. Okay, so that's a good thing. Even I'm going to fall into that sometimes. You don't have to do anything.
Sure.
But just be aware that like you are in a pseudo military organization. If you don't obey the chain of command and they find out about it, that can be some serious problem.
So it's not quite there yet, but I see on the second page of our character sheets, we do have attacks and certain ones with different
Correct.
numbers. How would that play into this? Like I know, like mine, the first one is unarmed strike and it stuns the person and it has, I don't know what the number means yet, but it has a 2. And then the second was phaser type 2, which is stun / deadly and
we don't have
charge.
phaser.
Yeah, but we don't have phasers. So if I were in this situation, what are attacks? Where do they come in? How do you use them?
Okay, so the number out to the side is the amount of damage you inflict. Okay, as far as how we get to whether or not you succeeded, it's all the same process. It's rolling a task, right? The number, like I said, represents the amount of damage you do should you be successful. Okay. As far as what kind of damage you can take, you'll also notice on your second page that you have stress.
Mhm.
Okay. Your stress is essentially your damage. Okay. Once you have exhausted the amount of stress that you have available, which are your little squares,
Mhm.
at that point you are injured. Unless the weapon that's been used on you has a trait that would say otherwise. Okay. So for example, if you look down at your phaser, it has stun / deadly.
Yeah.
So that lets you know that you can pick whether or not you want it to be lethal, which is true. That's they,
Mhm.
set your phasers to stun. If you elected to be deadly, it doesn't change anything other than when that guy's stress is full, he's dead. For the most part, we're going to kind of decide narratively whether or not we want that to be true. Again, they've done a very good job of setting up these rules to tell a story, which also means we have a lot of wiggle room. So when we have full stress, unless there is just a really difficult, unless I'm going to have a really difficult time explaining why you're not dead, you're going to be injured and incapacitated. Okay. When your stress is completely full, normally you're just going to be injured. And depending on what the stress is from, you'll get a trait that says what we need to do narratively. A trait is just another way of saying it's a fact about any given thing, right? A trait could be pitch black, so you can't see. Like that's just a trait for the environment, right? When your stress is filled up all the way and you're injured, the trait might be broken leg, okay? So you're not necessarily unconscious, but you can't walk.
Mhm.
Okay, you're out of action. You're not going to be doing any tasking, which
Gotcha.
is really all that means. When your stress is full, you're no longer allowed to do tasks. You have to be cared for in some way. But stress can also come from a lot of things that aren't physical, right? So I might just tell you, hey, you've been in diplomatic negotiations for 4 hours straight. You're taking a recess. And if I'm telling you this, it's probably because something's going to happen during the recess, right? That just narratively makes sense. So you've got 6 stress right now. Okay. Because you can be incapacitated just from you're burnt out. Right?
Yes.
You can't function.
Yeah, that
Now,
tracks.
Again, because this is narrative based, you can negotiate with me. All right. There's lots of different ways to get rid of stress. So one of them might be usually you would get rid of a couple if we make it to the next scene. So we've been playing through Act 1. We're heading into Act 2. Might let everyone know, hey, if you have any stress, knock 2 off. You've had time to catch your breath. You've had time to blah, 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 blah. Right? You might not be all the way healed, but you have less stress. If a scene takes place the next day, unless your stress is literally an injury, you're probably all back to normal. You're fine. You've had rest. You've had some food. You're good to go. You're refreshed.
It's like The Sims.
Yeah.
I was thinking short rest versus long rest.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Okay,
kind of the
sure.
idea, right?
Or Sims. Yeah.
And it's
Sorry. I'm sorry.
and there are suggested rules for dealing with stress, but for the most part, it's negotiable, right? You can again offer to trade getting stress back for a complication. So say most of your stress was from a firefight. Okay. So hey Josh, let me back into the game. All right, we'll take away a couple of stress, and maybe my character's left arm is numb, like there's nerve damage. He just can't use his left arm. Cool. So that means moving forward, anytime you have to do something physical, I'm probably going to increase the difficulty of your task. Okay. So again, the number that you're shooting for doesn't change, but the number of successes you need goes up. It is now significantly harder for him to do because he can't use his left arm. So you're alone in the hallway with this Romulan soldier. What do you do?
All right. So Romulans and Vulcans are probably equally strength.
Correct.
And you're human?
Yep.
So you're weaker.
Just factual.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm going to charge the Romulan and I'm going to order you to go for the weapon.
I mean, factually, I'm stronger than you. So
Okay. So maybe I'm making a bad choice here.
Uh-huh.
So,
That's a lot.
Maybe.
Yeah. so see, so like, anyway, do you want to charge the Romulan? One of us has to
I
charge
think
the
we
Romulan.
need to try
and one of us has to-
negotiating. Like, hey, you're outnumbered. You need to calm down. Let's lower the temp in the room.
Okay. Okay. So we'll use your security persona and intimidation factor to do that. So,
Okay.
Now what?
all right.
Okay. So you decide to talk to him instead.
Yeah.
Okay. Who calls out to him? I would say that you would look at your stats and see who has the higher.
Presence?
I would say,
Reasoning?
yeah, I would say presence and command.
That would be Jason.
I got an 11 and a 5. What do you got?
10 and 3.
Okay. That'd be me. Okay. So that's a total of, 16.
Okay. And then we're going to say for him to resist, we're going to say that he's we'll call him an officer since I'm just going to use the captain's sheet here.
Okay.
So in order for him to resist, I'm going to say it's going to be his reason and command. So he is shooting for 15s. He gets 2 dice.
Oh my god! I'm just gonna roll that one.
All right. So he got 2 successes. So you are shooting for 2 successes.
Okay. May I have 2 dice, please? You got 12 and a 10.
It's 22.
Yeah.
No,
thank
it's
No,
you.
but both
you don't
that's
add
2
them up.
successes.
Yeah, it's 2
Oh,
successes.
2 successes.
Both
Okay.
less than 16. But good
Okay.
math, Corey. Good math.
Nailed it.
So wait, so I have to roll less than
You're rolling. So the person that you're acting upon
right.
rolls first
Okay.
for whatever stats they would use to resist whatever you're doing. Right.
Okay.
So I rolled and I got 2 successes.
Mhm.
So all that tells us is the number of successes that you have to get
Oh.
to beat him.
And you had to
And
get
you did. You
2
got
less
the
than
2
16.
successes. Okay.
Okay.
So at that point, what happens is you shot it out to him. You're just like, hey, look, man, you're outnumbered. We're in a very serious situation here. And through no fault of our own, your life is now in danger. The logical thing to do would be to stand down and come with us.
Okay.
And he looks around and he looks at both of you and he looks at the collapsing bulkheads. And he says, fine, for now, I'll come with you. But when this is over, we pick this up where we left off. And that's it. Like, that's essentially how this plays out. It just as easily could have been that I rolled a critical success or maybe even 2 critical successes. Now this is a difficulty of 4.
Mm.
Okay. So let's
Okay.
say that happened. Let's just say I had 4 successes. Cool. Jason, you have to make that roll. You need 4 successes.
2 1s. That was not 2 1s.
Got a 5 and a 10.
10.
Okay.
So that's
So-
2 successes.
Maybe Corey helps. All right.
Okay.
So you're the security officer. You may not have a whole lot of reason, but you could use your presence and your security,
Mhm.
or your presence and your. I'm going to say if you're going to go the intimidation route, I'm going to say presence and security. Oh, but you only get to roll 1 dice because you're helping.
Oh.
8. What number were we shooting for?
16.
Probably less than that or more. Like that's probably a success.
What line up where am I looking at?
Your what did we say? Presence
Presence and security.
My presence is 10. My security is 5.
Yeah, so 15 or under.
Okay.
So you also got a success, but that's still only 3 successes.
Oh crap!
So at this point, and normally we would make these decisions before, but we're learning.
Spitballing.
Right? Yeah. So at this point, one of 2 things happens. Either he looks at you and says, absolutely not. And he makes a die for the gun. Or if you had momentum,
One of those chips on there.
momentum, you'd be like, hey, Josh, I'm going to buy a dice. Or maybe even buy 2. Like, it's up to you. So your first dice costs 1. Your second dice costs 2. Your third dice costs 3. If you're adding dice to one roll. All right. So maybe you spend the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
You get to pick 1 more dice. So go ahead and pick 1 more dice and you can roll it too.
Okay. Thank you. So do I roll them all together? Or just
I mean, again, in a perfect world, we would have decided all these things beforehand. But since we're learning what the options are,
right.
yeah, just add 1 more. So we're going to assume that you got your 2 successes.
Okay.
Corey got his 1 success.
Oh.
I got a critical 1.
Okay, so technically you got
2.
5
5.
successes total.
So
So not only do you succeed, but you
We get
get
that.
your 1 momentum
Yeah.
back.
Mm.
Okay, so go back one to the purchase of a momentum. You said you could buy a momentum. What is the currency?
Okay, so you don't necessarily buy a momentum,
Right.
but instead of spending momentum,
Mm-hmm.
you can sell me threat. All right. So maybe I was looking at my stats and I was just like, man, that's only going to cost like 1 success for him to succeed.
Right.
And maybe from a narrative standpoint, I really want you to fail right here.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
So I might say, all right, well, I'm gonna spend 4 threat and buy 2 extra dice. So I get to roll 4. Okay, now you need 6 successes
Right.
in order to win, right? That's a lot of successes. So at that point, if you didn't have any momentum and it's just you and Corey in the scene,
Mm-hmm.
you've only got 2 choices. You can either say, okay, we can't do that. We have to figure out something else. Or you can say, hey, Josh, I really want to get an extra dice. And it's the same rate. Your first extra dice is 1 threat. So I get 1 threat if you want an extra dice. If you want 2, I would get 3 extra.
And when you say 1 threat, it means add 1 to whatever.
To my pool. Yep.
Okay, so like if your threat's 4, you bump it up to 5. Sorry,
No. Threat is not a numerical thing. Threat is just my momentum.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just my currency for
Okay.
doing the same things that you can do.
all right. So if there's momentum chips on the table, we
Yes.
can just take it. Like it's available to use.
If it's on the table, that means it's available.
And like we don't have to sacrifice anything to use it.
Well, we share them.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
we
share,
share
so-
them.
So
right.
bear in mind, like you might want to check with your teammates
Like,
before you just.
Right. But I mean, like it's not going to cost me
No.
anything like
No.
turn wise
But you can run out of them,
right. Yes.
right? And you have to
Okay.
accrue more of them.
So you said I'm going to buy a momentum. So that's like if we want to put a momentum chip on the table, that would be the buying part.
Well, you can't do that.
You
No.
get them by like going over
Yeah,
Get
you
extra
earn
successes.
something you were shooting
correct.
for.
Okay.
If you accrue more successes
Mhm.
than you need, it goes into momentum.
Okay.
Like you needed 4 successes, you got 6, you get 2 momentum. Is
Got
that
it.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you really got it?
She's got it.
I don't
I've
get
got
much,
it enough
but I
to
got
move
this.
forward and recognize that I will just have to play through it to finally.
Yeah, that's usually how I play too. I have to.
Yeah.
I can't learn it until I start.
Also, as the
Right.
person who is definitely going to be the worst at the very, very basic math in this game, I believe
Oh.
earlier you said that 8 plus 5 is 15, and I need to point out to solidify my record that it's actually 13. I just need that on. I just
Yeah.
need that ready.
She is aware that it was 13.
So I
Yeah.
can. Well, you said it.
Oh, did I?
You said 8 plus 5 is 15, and
Oh.
I need somebody to know that at one point, once I was correct at
Okay.
math, because it's not going to happen much.
I have zero recollection of that. It's late. But yes, I concur. It is 13.
Didn't think it was up for debate,
Right.
but all right. Well, okay. So, is there anything else we need to know before we go off and do our first full episode of Star Trek Adventures?
No, lean into it and have fun. That's the biggest thing. Theoretically, the only person who should have their crap together is me. No, I mean that's really it though. Like it's the you guys should be the ones having all the fun. If we're being perfectly honest, like I'll have fun, but it'll be different.
That kind of sounded like you should have fun. This should suck for me. It's gonna be a great time.
It will, but I mean, it's one of those that you just shouldn't stress out over it. And the best thing you can do is just think like, what would you really do? Like that's going to be the easiest way to do it. Watching an episode or 2 of Star Trek is not a bad idea because again, it's kind of like Law and Order. They tend to do most of the same things over and over and over again. Whenever they get to a new place, first thing they're going to do is probably scan, right? Like that's just what they do because that's what gives them all of their information. That is a very easy task to do, and it gives me an excuse to tell you what is happening. So little things like that, but also if we're in a tight spot, I'll just friggin' tell you.
Christian will fall through the ceiling.
Yes,
We got the backup.
we have a narrative out.
So I guess we could do an assignment for our viewers. We have a security officer. We have a
Chief engineer.
Chief engineer.
Chief
Got
medical
a medical
officer.
officer. You got an
Operations
operations
manager.
officer and a commander. Recommend an episode for each character that would be a good episode to kind of see what we could flesh out our character with, like a good example.
Yeah.
So if you have like a good Star Trek The Next Generation or DS9 or Voyager in that order,
Not Enterprise.
well, first of all, they're not. That's not Next Generation
No, it isn't.
era.
Yeah, we're in. We are playing in the TNG era.
Yeah, we are playing.
Just for anyone, I feel like we said that in the last episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if we
We-
said it in this one.
Correct.
We
Yeah.
haven't yet.
So if you have any recommendations that specifically highlight a particular role, throw that out there, and we'll watch that and maybe get an idea of a good way to play our characters.
Or if that's too hard, list your favorite Star Trek tropes.
Yeah. Those are
Hey,
fun.
leave those in the comments of this video.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Eat, sleep, nerd.
Next video. Stay tuned for when we do our first full episode of Star Trek Adventures. I'm sure it'll be coming pretty soon. Josh is eager to get this one going. So
I just
make
have to
sure.
rewrite the whole first episode.
All right. Yet again, if you have not subscribed already, click subscribe here on youtube.com/@eatsleepnerd. Click a like on this video. Go watch our other videos. Click like on those as well. Leave some comments, especially if you've played this game before. Give us some tips. And share us with your friends and family over on social media. And until next time, Josh, what are 3 things nerds should be doing?
Eat, sleep, nerd.
Eat, sleep, nerd. Take it easy, people.